in haunting phenomena. Tonight, we follow director Lloyd Auerbach as he investigates 2 reported hauntings and attempts to gather evidence that ghosts actually exist.
Ghostbusters was one of the first films that really hit the entire public consciousness with a comedy that was clearly not real. We know that stuff's not real, guys. We know that there's not a marshmallow man walking down Central Park West. What do you really do?
Until his death, Tony was everyone's favorite bartender at the Banta Inn near San Francisco. Locals believe his spirit haunts the restaurant still. But Tony's not a frightening, malicious ghost. His trademark is mischief.
There was a fellow staring at me there. I went through the door of the kitchen, and he was gone.
I saw a figure in the mirror, and I turned to look at the floor where that person should have been standing, and there was nothing
all
there.
All of a sudden, I felt this, like somebody took their finger up the back of my leg all the way up, and I turned around, there was nobody there. And it was
after that, the guy's beer right next to me tipped over, spun around 3 times. The guy then
and all of a sudden, the CDs started flipping by themselves. He just flipped a couple times.
He loved Patsy Cline, and it would come on all the time.
Ghosts tend to react to situations as if they were people, living and breathing people. One of the reasons is they don't know they're dead. They're in total denial. We have a lot of physical things happening that seem to relate to Tony's behavior when he was alive. One of the things that Tony was apparently fond of doing was playing with the money in the cash register and stacking the change so that it was a nice orderly stacks in the change bin. And here, when you just toss money in a change bin, obviously close the door, open it back and forth, it's not going to stack automatically. And yet they've been opening the drawer for a few years, and the change seems to be stacking by itself.
You can throw it in and turn around the next second, and it's all stacked in there all nice and neat.
In the search for proof, investigators test Tony's favorite table with a magnetometer. They're looking for abnormal levels of electromagnetism.
Oh my God, it's going off the scale. No, right as I was coming over here, it went off the scale. It went up to about 100.
Unlike other hauntings Lloyd Auerbach has investigated, the people here aren't frightened.
One of the bartenders told me that she had pretty much gotten a couple of guys who were very drunk out of here and come back in, and she didn't lock the door behind her, which she thought as an afterthought. It turned out to have locked itself.
And according to eyewitnesses, Tony is not the only ghost that haunts the Banta Inn.
From what I have been told, Margaret was an old regular in the 50s and 60s. She passed away. She died of a heart attack in the building, and that she absolutely loved the Banta Inn. She like lived down here, and that she didn't want to leave either. Margaret plays. She likes levitation. She likes throwing objects.
The man came in and ordered a hamburger, and the bartender asked him something about how he wanted it done. And at that moment, from across the room, where there was no one sitting, an ashtray picked up off the table, flew across the room, past the guy's head, and dropped down in front of the bartender.
Even Lloyd has experienced what seems to be Margaret's temper.
The chandelier started moving by itself, and there was no way for that to have happened if the other one wasn't already moving, unless somebody rigged it, and that's the first thing we did check.
In another haunting case at the Moss Beach Distillery in California, a deluge of eyewitness reports warranted more sophisticated diagnostic tools.
Yeah, what we're installing are 3 different types of motion detectors: an infrared detector, a microwave detector, and an ultrasonic detector.
In addition to the detection devices, Auerbach has assembled a team of psychics who will attempt to make contact with the spirits here.
You may have a lot of person witnesses, but no camera witnesses to objectify the actual phenomena that's going on. Photographic evidence doesn't exist, and there are no good photographs because we're dealing with a purely mental phenomenon where the ghost is somehow transmitting an image into your brain and bypassing the eyes altogether.
Apparently it was built as a residence to begin with. There was a garage downstairs, and then it became a booming restaurant and a bordello, we think. There was a piano player here, and every evening a beautiful woman wearing blue would come to listen to him play, and apparently they were having an affair. The only problem was that she was married and her husband was very jealous. And one night they were all here at the same time, and a fight broke out, and they ended up on the beach, and a stabbing took place, and apparently the lady in blue, was killed. And then she came back here to haunt the place.
The blue lady is quite comfortable with us, and we're comfortable with her. We'll protect her, I think, as much as we can. She pulls a lot of pranks. I guess one that I can remember, I guess is the funniest, is that a waitress in the kitchen towards the end of the evening, got smacked in the rear end with a spatula, and there was nobody in the kitchen.
We recently installed a heating and air conditioning system, and I spent the better part of one day programming these thermostats so they would go on precisely the time pre-designated and so forth. The very next day, I came into the restaurant and every single setting on the thermostat had been changed. And it would take at least 30 minutes for somebody to do that if you knew how to do it and if you knew how to unlock it.
Coffee machines will turn on all by themselves and start dumping coffee out. At one point or another, I think everyone on our waitstaff has heard someone calling their name. I think it's just mischief. She probably gets bored and likes to play a couple of pranks. Let us know that she's around.
Despite their battery of detection devices and psychic input, the Blue Lady of Moss Beach did not appear during their investigation. But Lloyd Auerbach is encouraged by the data that has been collected.
There is definitely something anomalistic or psychic or whatever you want to call it going on in this place. We can go in every few months, let's say, and we can ask if anything new has happened and start really getting a fuller picture.
Is the Lady in Blue imaginary, or could her failure to materialize be just one of her pranks?
I personally believe this is happening because I take a lighthearted approach, and since most people have a sense of humor, I think most ghosts do too.
Thanks for joining us. For Sightings, I'm Tim White. Good night.